Secretary, very much. And now, Sabila Khan of Jersey City, who lost her beloved father and represents many of the families who lost a loved one. Sabila?
Oh, sorry. My name is Sabila Khan, and I am one of the millions of Americans who have lost a loved one to COVID. My father, Shafqat Khan, was the loving father of 3, the doting grandfather of 7, and the devoted husband to my mother for what would have been 50 years last October. As a community activist in Jersey City, he spent years carving out spaces and opportunities for others. He was a good human being and who devoted himself to his family and his community. On March 11th, as the tri-state area went into lockdown, the rehab facility where my father was receiving physical therapy for Parkinson's closed its doors to visitors. We never saw him again. After a week of growing increasingly alarmed when he stopped answering his phone, we were told that my father was congested, had lost his appetite and his ability to speak, and had a low-grade fever. He was rushed to a hospital 3 blocks away from us, where he spent 3 days in a war zone of an ER waiting for a hospital bed. He died alone, without his family by his side, 4 days later, on Tuesday, April 14th. It truly takes my breath away to imagine the fear, isolation, and trauma that my father suffered during the last week of his life. It's something that will haunt me for the rest of mine. My father was buried the following day, and in what was the most surreal and heartbreaking moment of my life, I had to watch his burial live streamed on my phone. But sadly, my story is not unique. When my father died last April, the COVID death toll in the US was 26,000. 14 months later, we've added almost 575,000 more American lives to the tally. Something went terribly wrong here, and we, the COVID bereaved, are demanding answers. Let's not forget, people are still dying. Last week, we surpassed 600,000 deaths. For every COVID death, there are an estimated 9 close family members left behind. That's an estimated 5.4 million Americans left with PTSD, feelings of guilt and anxiety, lack of closure, and the burden of knowing that their loved ones died traumatized, isolated, and alone. No family deserves this. Mine certainly didn't, and neither did the millions that came after us. In trying to navigate my own trauma, I took the lessons I learned from my community activist father, and 4 days after he died, I started COVID-19 loss support for family and friends, the first Facebook bereavement group for people dealing with COVID loss. We're now the largest support group in the country, with more than 10,000 members from all 50 states who have lost parents and grandparents, spouses and children, siblings and aunts and uncles. A shocking number have lost more than one loved one to this virus. We come from diverse backgrounds and political affiliations. In fact, I'm proud to share that our group includes members who voted for Biden, as well as those who voted for Trump. And in spite of our differences, most of us would agree on the fact that a COVID commission is urgently needed. Today, we thank Senators Menendez and Collins for their leadership in bringing forth the bill for a COVID commission. We believe that a nonpartisan, independent, equitable, fully funded, comprehensive, and fair COVID commission must center the voices, experiences, and needs of the communities most gravely impacted by this virus. Not only the bereaved, but also frontline healthcare workers and COVID long haulers. We must take a full and unvarnished look at what happened and why, so that we can understand how to make sure it never happens again. We demand support from both sides of the aisle for this, because if COVID has shown us anything, it's that viruses don't discriminate across party lines. And in order to properly safeguard Americans from a future pandemic, we need to start doing the same. We expect the findings to set into motion legislation and best practices that will save lives and spare others the trauma that millions of us are suffering today. And I want to add that while none of the findings will change the fact of how our loved ones died, a COVID commission can bring so many families some measure of closure and healing. As the nation races towards reopening and normalcy, it's hard not to feel like our loved ones are being pushed aside as inconvenient statistics. But the conversations we are starting to have around the need for a COVID commission are giving me hope. Hope that the suffering and untimely deaths of 600,000 Americans will not be forgotten, and hope that we will be able to take the difficult lessons learned during this season of unprecedented grief and apply them towards building a safer and more equitable nation for all. Thank you.